allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening and welcome to you all. Thank you, Putnam Valley voters, for coming out tonight again to meet the 2019 candidates for Town Council, Highway Superintendent, and Town Justice. My name is Eileen Riley, President of the League of Women Voters of Putnam County. We are grateful that you will be participating in this forum by asking your questions of the candidates. As you know, candidate forums and debates are a very necessary part of the democratic process. Thank you to all of our candidates for participating this evening and providing us with the opportunity to listen as you discuss your experiences and what you plan to accomplish when elected. On Election Day, the people of Putnam Valley will vote with a better knowledge of who their candidates running for office are. Unfortunately, Mr. Stephen McKay, who is running for re-election to the Town Council and who had accepted our invitation to participate tonight, is now recovering from recent surgery and will not be able to attend. Copies of his statement are available at the candidates literature table located outside this room. Our town supervisor, Mr. Sam Oliverio, who I don't think is here tonight, and town clerk, Ms. Sherry Howard, are running unopposed for re-election this year. In accordance with the National, State, and Local League of Women Voters nonpartisan policies, a candidate debate or meeting with only one candidate present per race is considered an open or empty chair candidate meeting and is not permitted at any level of league nor any elected position. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan grassroots political organization open to men and women. It encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. The League neither supports nor opposes any political party or candidate for elective office, but does encourage its members as individuals to take part fully in the political process. I would like to thank the candidate for Putnam County Court Judge, Camille Linson, who came to tonight's event, but cannot participate because of the League's empty chair policy. Camille, if you're in the room, please stand. She's down the hall. Okay, well, she's out in the hallway where our candidates literature is. So you can speak with her after the forum. As you entered the room, you were provided with index cards for you to write down your questions for the candidates. We request that you specify which office your questions are being directed to, and that you include your name if you're comfortable doing so. You don't have to. You are reminded that your questions are to be relevant to the position sought by the candidate and are not to be of a personal nature. Please raise your hand to have a League member in the room collect your completed index card or to provide you with an additional card. Questions are being vetted by League members who will sort out duplicates, questions of a personal nature, and to assure legibility before being forwarded to the moderator who will read the questions to the candidates. Light refreshments are available at the rear of the room. The Putnam County League and members are all volunteers. We ask that you please make a donation to help offset the cost of events like tonight's forum, our upcoming Students Inside Albany program, and this year we hope we are able to send 2 students to Albany, as well as our educational forums that we host throughout the year. A League donation container has been set up at the refreshment table and another at the League table as you leave tonight's event. I had to take that back. I left the donation jars at home. Oh, that's terrible. So,
take their money anyway.
Seated at the table is Mark Weiss, who would be more than happy to take any donation that you may offer. What an oversight that is. Last, I want to remind everybody that this year, New York State has 9 early voting days that run from October 26th to November 3rd at the Putnam County Board of Elections in Carmel. November 5th is general election day, and voting will take place at your usual polling location. Additional early voting information is available at our League of Women Voters Literature table. I would now like to introduce you to our moderator this evening, who does not live or vote in Putnam Valley. Mr. Mark Bukowski is a longtime member of the League of Women Voters of Putnam County, as well as a member of our Board of Directors. Please give a warm welcome to Mr. Bukowski. Oh, one more thing. Oh, here, you do it. I forgot to announce the elected officials in the room. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Before I begin my formal remarks, I've been asked to recognize some of the elected officials in our room. Kevin Byrne, New York State Senator, 94th District. Here, sir. Please stand up. Assembly. Okay. Mr. Bill Goldsman, County Legislator from District Number 2. Jackie Anabi, Putnam Valley Town Board Member. Wendy Wetzel, Putnam Valley Town Board Member. And Sherry Howard, Putnam Valley Town Clerk. Again, good evening and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name, as Eileen told me, is Mark Bukowski, and I am, believe it or not, a member of the League of Women Voters. I live in Mapac, and I will be your moderator for this evening. Tonight is your opportunity to listen to all of the candidates who are on your ballot, hear their views on the issues, and ask questions. We are videotaping tonight's event, which will be shown on our League of Women Voters Facebook page, unedited in its entirety. Links will be forwarded to the candidates within a few days, and you are please reminded that the League of Women Voters video may be used in its entirety only. Before we begin tonight, I want to remind you once again to everybody, please turn off your personal electronic equipment. Nobody but the League's professional videographer is permitted to record tonight's program, at least videotape tonight's program. However, photographs are permitted. Now, I realize that many of the people in the audience tonight may be fiercely partisan. However, I will insist that the candidates and the audience treat each other with respect. Personal attacks, calling out, or the use of signage will not be allowed. Those who do not comply will be asked to leave the room. It is the job of the audience to listen and to write their questions for the candidates on the index cards that were made available to you upon your arrival. On your card, please state which office your question is directed to. League members will pick up your completed index cards and provide additional cards if you raise your hand. Audience questions will be vetted by League members before giving them to me to read to the candidates. We ask that you all listen respectfully to each candidate's answers. In the interest of time, we ask that you please hold your applause to the end of each debate event. Bear in mind that we may not have time for all questions. This meeting will conclude no later than 8:45 p.m. The timekeepers for this evening event are seated in the front row, Jane Weiss and Nita Platteretti. May we have a round of applause for them. A yellow card will be held up for the candidates at 30 seconds remaining. Can you hold that up? That's the yellow card. And a red card when a lot of time is up. The format for this evening will be as follows. Lots are drawn to determine which candidate will speak first, and then when we have to move to debates, the order of questions will rotate so that every candidate has a chance to answer first, and the closing remarks will be done in reverse order. When you write a question on the index cards, we ask that you write legibly, and we ask that your question is able to be read in 1 minute or less. Please remember to make your questions pertinent to the office and addressed to all the candidates. All right? Now, as I mentioned to you earlier, tonight's order of events has been altered slightly. We're going to begin now with our judicial race. Judicial candidates do not take questions in the same manner that candidates for elected office, other offices do. So we're going to turn our attention to the judicial race, and it is my pleasure to introduce to you at this time your candidates for Putnam Valley Town Justice, Terry Raskin and Clement Van Ross. A few moments ago, we tossed a coin, and Ms. Raskin will be speaking first. Ms. Raskin.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mark, and thank you, the League. I am grateful to have this opportunity. I've lived in Putnam Valley for the last 28 years. It seems like only yesterday I moved in, but it's true. In fact, December sometime will be 29 years since I closed on my house. Oh, I'm sorry, you want the mic. I'm so used to projecting. I'm an attorney currently practicing guardianship and elder law, and I am also a certified mediator, certified by the courts of New York to practice mediation throughout throughout all of New York State. And I currently practice in all the town courts in the lower Hudson Valley, which goes all the way from Port Jervis all the way to southeast, Orange, Putnam, not Rockland, but some of the other counties. I also have been a great proponent of volunteerism. I volunteered with our library for close to 8 or 9 years. I've been a board member for the last 6. I've been the president of the Putnam Valley Library Board for the last couple of years. And in fact, I'm also one of the passport acceptance people. We just had a very successful open passport day this past weekend. And if you need anything notarized, we are also notaries on call. Very useful. I believe in our legal system and the work of law enforcement, and I would like to be able to involve our youth from the get-go in the courts. I'd like to see them work with us doing moot court, doing all kinds of other things that get them in front of a court for the right reasons and not for the wrong ones. I think that our opioid problem is definitely a crisis. I don't know that we can completely solve it. I want to make a dent in it by following in the great footsteps of Gina Capone and Louis DiCarlo and even Camille Linson, who all of them were very intricately involved with the drug courts that the late Judge Reitz engineered. All kinds of other specialty courts for veterans, mental health courts, things that it provide alternatives to sentencing and alternative programs that help people and not just stuff them behind bars. I want to pledge to provide equal access to our courts, change the hours at no additional cost to our taxpayers so that we can restore night court. There are people who cannot afford to take a day off, a morning off, to appear, whether it's on a traffic violation or a small claims dispute. This is very doable, and I'd like to bring that back to Putnam Valley. Also, I have a long history of public service to communities and volunteering and working with nonprofits. My family, many years ago, formed the Unicorn Children's Foundation, which involves, at the time, quite a number of years ago, it was just for autistic children, for education of professionals and parents. It now focuses on all types of neurodiversity, and I'm very proud of the work that they have done. I worked with the Women's Campaign, I worked at one time with the Women's Campaign Research Fund, training candidates, a lot of people who were elected, and this was a bipartisan organization. I did media training for them. And I'm currently on the New York State Bar Elder Abuse Committee and the Women's Bar International Women's Rights Committee. I'm endorsed by a plethora of organizations, everything from the Central Labor Council, the Supreme Court Officers Association, the Stonewall Democrats, the County Dems. I ask for your vote. You can vote for me on one of a number of lines. I not only am on the Democratic line, also Working Families, and also the SAM line. That's the Serve America movement, if you don't know what it is. Remember to flip the ballot over. We have a library proposition on the back. And vote early. Please, starting this Sunday, join me. I'm going to be there, starting this Saturday. I'm going to be there at 9 o'clock in Carmel to make sure that we have as many people going to Carmel from the western portion of the county, so that guarantees that next year we will have a western outpost for early voting, so we don't have to drive all the way to Carmel and back. But we are also offering rides. If anyone needs a ride, please take a look at one of the flyers outside on the table. Please pick up one of mine, pick up a handy-dandy pen, and enjoy it. And I look forward to seeing everybody at the polls between now and November 5th.
Mr. Ramos.
My name is Clem Van Ross, and I'm running for town justice. I've been a lifelong resident of this town, and as a teenager, I attended many town board meetings, which at the time the town board consisted of Harry Sillick, Ted Morrissey, and Frank Bluffy. I was given the opportunity to serve as town attorney, and most recently as a member of the Board of Ethics for the last 15 years. As part of my duties as chairman, I oversaw the revision of the present ethics code that we have for the town. My activities in town have given me the opportunity to serve as counsel to the Putnam County Legislature for almost 30 years. Served as a New York State Senate Counsel and Assembly County Counsel for almost 18 years. And in addition, I've been a president of the Putnam County Bar Association and a member of the Community Services Board. The town has also given me the opportunity to serve as a Republican town chair many times, Republican county chair, and as a member of the state committee. Having a private practice for almost 50 years, 25 of which I represented clients in justice court of this area, has given me a good perspective for serving as town justice. I'd like to thank the residents of this town for the opportunity and for giving me the aspects that I have enjoyed, and wish to give back to the town the experience and qualifications given to me. Thank you.
Thank you to both of our candidates. Thank you. We're now going to take a 1-minute break while we prepare for our highway superintendent race. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, we will now hear from our candidates for Putnam Valley Highway Superintendent. Of course, you may vote only for one. The candidates are Mr. Sean M. Keeler, running on the Democratic line, and Mr. Lawrence W. Cobb, who has the Republican, Conservative, and Independence lines. We flipped a coin to see who would speak first, and Mr. Cobb won first, so he will be giving his opening remarks. Opening remarks, no more than 2 minutes. And then we will take questions. Each of you will have up to 2 minutes to answer each question. We will rotate the order of who answers first. And when it is time for your closing statements, you will get 1.5 minutes, and we will do that in reverse orders. So, Mr. Cobb, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Larry Cobb. I live at 2 Walter Road in Lake Peekskill with the love of my life, Karen, as well as our 4 great kids and 2 beautiful grandkids. I have worked for the Highway Department for 32 years, as well as I've been your highway superintendent for the past 8 years. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't teach experience. Ladies and gentlemen, this race is not about being a Democrat or Republican or whichever party you identify yourself with. The roads don't know what my political standing is. This position is about getting the job done. I've been under budget for 8 consecutive years, while I continue to replace 7 snowplow trucks, a backhaul truck, a bucket truck, a new mower, as well as other countless pieces of equipment necessary to keep our roads in tip-top condition. Since I took office 8 years ago, we have paved over 50 miles of road. Also, we have continued to stay up on large projects such as replacing drainage pipes, Bryan Pond Road, Northshire Road, and many, many others, while tackling down trees, tree removal, repairing catch basins, cutting back brush to keep our roads safe to travel, all while under budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we're going to ask that you hold all applause until the very end of each section of the debates. It takes up time. Mr. Keeler?
Good evening. I'd like to thank you all for coming out tonight, and I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for this opportunity. I also want to apologize about my voice as I'm getting over being sick. I'll try to do my best. For those that don't know me, I am Sean Keeler, and I'm running for Putnam Valley Highway Superintendent. I was born and raised on Luigi Road here in Putnam Valley. I still currently live in town with my wife of 14 years and our 4 children. I love Putnam Valley, and I plan on staying just as many of my ancestors have. Over the past 27 years, I volunteered at the Putnam Valley Volunteer Fire Department. I currently am a member of the board of directors there. I also coach T-ball for the Putnam Valley Little League and, excuse me, and their safety officer. I've spent countless hours as the local Santa for various town events. I do have a passion for Christmas, and my light display shows my hard work, dedication, and commitment to get the job done. I've worked for the highway department since 2009, and have held the position of shop steward for the past 4. This position allows me to work with crews as well as the union and town for various issues. When I'm elected the highway superintendent, I would like to open communication about various town projects. I would also like to create a live calendar on the town website or social media such as Facebook. Blacktopping, tree cutting, and road closures are an inconvenience to our working families. I believe the highway should communicate the plan to the town residents so they too can make suitable arrangements. I hope I have a clear plan. I will be able to ensure each area of Putnam Valley has the proper attention our residents deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. We're now going to go to questions that have been submitted by the audience and vetted by our league members. Mr. Keeler, you will have the opportunity to answer first. The question is this, gentlemen. What do you think is the best way to keep Lake Peekskill Road safe and control speeding vehicles? Mr. Keeler?
Was something I'd have to look into, but I believe, I don't know, possibly stop signs. I know the Sheriff's Department does a great job already in town policing the area. So I guess the only answer would be possibly putting stop signs. Because there's already speed limit signs.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot control speed with stop signs. It's illegal in the state of New York. It's vehicle and traffic laws. You cannot. We've been working with the Sheriff's Department to do the best we can to put some patrols up there to control some speed, but you can't put up stop signs. Stop signs, you can only put them on a through road. You can't put a stop sign. It's illegal, and it's not effective, and it's not the way to control traffic. But the problem in Lake Peekskill is there's not many people that get lost in Lake Peekskill, because if you get lost up there, you're not finding your way out. That's for one. Second of all, it's your neighbors. You know, you have to talk to your neighbors and tell them to slow down. I mean, we work along the road every day, and we take our lives in our hands every time we step out on that road. It's very dangerous. People don't slow down, and, you know, please talk to your neighbors. And, you know, it's a frustrating thing. I have a lot of people call my office and ask about speed, and it's the people that travel on the roads. Like I said, if you get lost in Lake Peekskill, you're not coming out. And it's very tough. You know, please slow down. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cobb, you might want to hold on the microphone. You go first.
Okay.
For this. Gentlemen, salt mitigates environmental problems. How would you have the department treat the roads in the winter to make them safe and still protect the environment?
The same way I've been treating them for 8 years, and before me, we started a salt brine many years ago, before my predecessors had started it. And before that, they used to use magnesium chloride. With one winter, they would wipe off your running boards on the trucks. Very, very, very aggressive stuff. And I myself, I use salt brine, salt and water, broken down to 4%, and that's all I use. I use no other chemicals. Every truck in our fleet has computers in them. They are designated to put out X amount of pounds per lane mile, and when you put the application on the road, okay, when the snow melts, there should be nothing left there, and that's the right way to put down salt. So the practice has been going on for a long time. I will continue to practice when re-elected. We salt brine before a storm, and there's not much else you can do. I mean, there's other stuff out there that's very, very expensive, and it's worked pretty well. I think we've got the best snow removal program in New York State, and I hear it all the time. I think it's something that it's proactive with the guys also. They have to know that, not to keep hitting it, hit it one time. When it does snow, 30 seconds, okay. On a 4 to 6 inch snowstorm, we go out, we salt once, we plow until it's done, and then we hit it in the end, and the roads are done. Thank you.
I would look into other alternatives if they are out there. The little investigating that I have done, I have heard that other local highway departments are using beet juice, potato brine, and pickle brine. I don't know as far as cost, but I will definitely look into it. And if it's something that's not too expensive and we can remain under budget, then it's something I will do.
Thank you. Mr. Keeler, you go first this time. The question is this. What are your priorities, gentlemen, for road safety while still protecting the beauty of the roadways?
Road safety?
Again, what are your priorities for road safety while also protecting the beauty of the roadways?
I'd like to implement a schedule of cutting back all trees that are overhanging the road, any dead trees that are along the road. When you come into an intersection, if they're overgrown, try and see if we can cut them back. Making sure that all roads are, which they are currently, have the yellow center lines, and that they're updated regularly.
Thank you. The beauty of the town is no doubt what this town is all about, but the roadways are, how do we say it, we have a lot to, when people come in front of somebody's house and you start cutting back and you clean it up, and some people get mad at you if you're taking trees down. We don't like to take trees that are live down. Any dead trees we like to take down. We don't like to take down any live trees. We try to avoid it as much as possible. I've done, a bunch of stuff. Sunset Hill, the bottom of Sunset Hill, there used to be a big mound there with big tree stumps and pine stumps there. We took them out, we planted grass. We did a little beautification. Canopus Hill, same thing. It was pretty rough over there. So we work on as much stuff as we can to keep it as pretty as we can, because we all love this town.
Thank you. And Mr. Cobb, you will go first again. Gentlemen, at the forum last night, we heard that there are signed agreements with neighboring towns to enable the sharing of equipment and services. How often does this sharing take place, and does it or would it save taxpayers money?
Absolutely. Town of Carmel has come and borrowed our rock hammer. We don't use it a whole lot. We're pretty self-sufficient. If we need something, we can get something from anybody. I have a great relationship with all 5 Putnam County highway superintendents. So, will it save money? Of course, but there's a lot of stuff that you run a risk of if you break it. If it's a tough situation, but we have used it, and I will use it again. I mean, Putnam County Highway, we went partnerships on a salt shed. That's still in place. We still share. One side of the shed is theirs, one side of the shed is ours. So we do a lot of shared services, yes.
I would like to continue those friendships or agreements with the local towns. And I would look into, if there, like Mr. Cobb said, if there's something that the other neighboring departments have that we need, I would definitely, before going out and buying a piece of equipment, I would try and use theirs before making a large purchase like that.
Thank you. Let's see. We have, unless the audience has more questions that they would like to submit, we come to our final question for you, gentlemen. And the question is this: what is the single greatest need our highway department will face in the coming year? And if you are elected or re-elected, how will you address this need in 2020?
Well, one of my biggest things is the highway garage itself. I think needs some updating. Like I said, not being the incumbent, it's something that I haven't looked into. But the guys that work in the shop, they eat lunch on a table. It's right where they were just working on trucks. So if possible, I'd like to see if there's either a way to rework the configuration for the safety of the men. And, if there's grants out there that maybe can help us either rebuild it or add on to it to make it a nicer place for the men when they come back for lunch, or the guys that are working in the shop, so that they're not eating, on a table that was just, where they just started a truck.
Ladies and gentlemen, that sounds great, but let's face facts. With the taxes the way they are in this town, would we love to have a new highway garage? No doubt, no doubt. I'd really like to be state of the art, but we can't afford it, And we've looked into it before. When one of my predecessors had started removing the rock up in the back there was talk of putting a highway garage up there at one time, but it's just it's unfeasible at this time, and we've got along for all these years without it. Would I like the guys to have a much nicer lunch place to eat? No doubt about it. No doubt about it. I'm all for that, but it's something that's just not realistic at this time. Showing Mr. Keeler here said, we wish we could get grants for it, but there's nothing out there. I wish we could. Thank you.
Thank you both, gentlemen. The time has now come for your closing statements, and as I said earlier, we will do that in reverse order. So, Mr. Keeler, the floor is yours, sir.
I'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming out tonight. I hope I've answered some of your questions clearly. While my opponent has held the position for the last 8 years, I can assure you that I will be dedicated to do more. I'm motivated, willing to work, willing to learn. I will listen to your ideas, work hard for the residents of Putnam Valley. As your highway superintendent, you will have my full dedication to not only get the job done, but also get the job done right. Just a reminder, we have early voting beginning this Saturday in Carmel. If you need a ride, please let any one of us know, and we'll make ourselves available. And on November 5th, please take the time to vote for myself, Sean Keeler, as your highway superintendent. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the end, the position of highway superintendent should not be decided based on popularity or political standing, but should be by the person who is getting the job done. Although it's not just a job, it's a commitment and duty to the fine people of this town people who call this town our home. From early morning plowing to making sure the roads are clear for the morning commute, to long days of paving to ensure we maintain the high standard residents of this town have grown to know and love. This is a year-round responsibility. When re-elected, I can assure you consistency, hard work, pride in what I do and have been doing for the past 8 years. Putnam Valley is what I've known and loved my whole adult life. I raised my family and have been an active member in this community for as long as I can remember. When chosen for the upcoming term, I vote to continue the same level of hard work, determination my crew and I have provided. I'd like to thank you for all coming out tonight to show support for myself as well as the other candidates. I know you will make the right choice for the place we call home, Putnam Valley. Thank you.
Round of applause for both candidates. Thank you. And once again, we're going to take a short break while we set up for our final debate of the night for Putnam Town Board. And welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen. We are now going to have our debate between our candidates for the Putnam Valley Town Council race. For this race, you will have the opportunity to vote for 2 candidates. The candidates tonight are Ralph E. Smith, the Democratic Conservative and Working Families lines, Mr. Anthony M. Williams on the Democratic and Working Families lines, Mr. Louis N. Luongo on the Republican, Conservative, and Independence lines, and Ms. Patricia A. Villanova on the Libertarian lines. As you can see from their seating positions, the candidates chose lots, and they've been seated in the order with which they will speak. So, at this time, we'd like to begin with our opening statements. You each have 2 minutes for your opening statements, and Mr. Smith, we will begin with you, sir.
Microphone. Thank you. Excuse me. Good evening. My name is Ralph Smith. I'm a Putnam Valley resident. I've been for 32 years. I live here with my wife, my daughter, my corgi dog George, and 2 cats. I was a special education teacher in the Putnam Valley schools for 28 years, hired by John Kleinegris back in 1983. Checking to see who's as old as me here. I had many leadership roles in addition to my classroom experience. I was the president of the teachers union. I was the chief contract negotiator. I was a grievance chairperson and a committee of 100 lobbying representative in Albany. What these leadership roles did was they put me in adversarial type positions where people who do not share the same points of view on issues have to come together, work together, and get to yes. They have to get to a point where people with differing points of view want to move forward together. And that's what I learned to do. After I retired, I was elected to the Board of Education for 2 terms. I saw great advances in the programs there offered to students, at the same time keeping costs down under the tax cap every single year. When I've looked around the recent past, I have not seen the town management keeping up with that school system development, even though their tax increases were over the tax cap each year. So I want to be part of a team to move our town forward in a cost-conscious manner. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Villanova.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks very much for coming out tonight. My name's Patty Villanova. While I haven't held any public offices, I have spent most of the last 30 years advocating for the taxpayers of this town. My family moved here in 1955. We moved to Lake Peekskill, which I thought at that time was like Yosemite National Park. And I've always loved the wild beauty of this town. It's what keeps me here. I love Lake Oscawana. I love paddling. But like many seniors and retirees and even young people, Putnam Valley, which is one of the most beautiful places in town, in the Hudson Valley, also used to be one of the most affordable, and it's not anymore. What's happened is we haven't had a town board that has really cared too much about the taxpayers. What I see happening is a lot of tax and spending. I don't see anybody that is saying, hey, this is not sustainable. Let's be real here. We don't have a commercial tax base in town. We are never going to have a commercial tax base. Most of the money that comes in is from the residential homeowners. We have to cut spending across the board. And if I am elected, I will certainly be a voice to say, for one thing, say to all the department managers, how about cutting 5 cents off of every dollar? 5%. Do you think you can do that before you hand me a budget? Also, the city of Peekskill just got a grant for $10 million for their downtown, money that they don't even know what to do with it. We've had problems here in Putnam Valley with Lake Peekskill, infrastructure, water, sewer, Lake Peekskill, 50 years. Our town board can't figure out how to get $2 million to fix that, or any number of millions of dollars. So we cannot keep hitting the residential taxpayers. We have to be creative. We have to go to the federal government. We have to go to the state government to help us out. Thank you.
Mr. Williams. Good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you to the League of Women Voters and all of you for coming out tonight. My name is Anthony Williams, and I'm running for your town board. I am a resident of Lake Peekskill. I am a husband to my phenomenal wife, Michelle, and my amazing 6 children. And it has been said of me that I have been a bit modest recently in explaining my qualifications for this position. So I will just let you know, for those who don't know me, I have had a life of service. Prior to coming to the Putnam Valley area, I've served on many boards, and I've been involved in advocacy on several levels. Prior to coming here, I was on the Board of Trustees for the Broome County Public Library, where we oversaw a multi-million-dollar budget. I was also on the Board of Directors for the County YMCA. Additionally, I've served in many chambers. I've served with the Mental Health Association of the Southern Tier, and I've actually served with Accord, which was a mediation agency as well. Since moving to the area, I have been educating myself and working behind the scenes the last several years. I currently serve on the Putnam Valley Planning Board. I serve on the Putnam Valley Library Board of Trustees. I serve on the Putnam Advisory Council, which is the group that brought the Salvation Army back to Putnam. And I also work with the Business Network and the Historical Society. So I've had an opportunity to see what's going on in town. And I'm here to say that things aren't working the way they could, and I'm ready to make a difference. My approach is one of caring, collaboration, and common sense, and I want to be your town board representative so we can make this a better Putnam Valley for all. Thank you.
And Mr. Luongo.
Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and all of you that are in attendance. My name is Louis Luongo. A little bit about me. I'm a 35-year resident of Putnam Valley. 35-year member of the Putnam Valley Volunteer Fire Department. Currently a deputy chief. I've held offices such as president, chairman of the board of directors, and I'm still an active member. 20 years with the Putnam County Bureau of Emergency Services. I'm currently a deputy emergency services coordinator. 33 years with the Putnam Valley Ambulance Corps, served as lieutenant and chairman of the board of directors. Currently 7 years on the Putnam Valley Town Board. I started working as summer help in Lake Peekskill in 1979. I work for Metro North. I've been here since 2004. Currently I am an instructor, the maintenance of equipment department. Been married to my wife Cheryl for 10 years. We have 2 stepdaughters and a grandson. I'm proud of the accomplishments of the current town board. Priorities of the current town board are health and safety of our residents, actively fighting the opioid and narcotic epidemic. We began our Climate Smart Green initiative, starting with a nice egg audit of our electric needs, changing our street lights, to LEDs. We added a third meeting each month so that we can continue on important agenda items, create a more open and transparent government, such as our budget process. To help improve the quality of our lakes, we have implemented a 5-year septic pump out system and installed an aeration system in Lake Peekskill. Our town board is diverse by makeup. I am seeking re-election to the Putnam Valley Town Board. I am here for the people, not the politics. Thank you.
Thank you all. We'll now begin with our audience submitted questions. Ms. Villanova, we'll begin with you. I want to pass her the microphone. The question is this: what ideas do you have for growing Putnam Valley's tax base?
Well, for growing our tax base, I think, as I said in my opening statement, I think that we have to be diligent and we have to go to outside sources. We pay some of the highest taxes in the whole United States, and yet we, as our town, is not getting all the services that we should be getting, especially when it comes to serious infrastructure. I mean, look at Lake Peekskill alone with the water and septic problems that they've been dealing with for over 50 years. Our taxpayers, the taxpayers that we have, there's roughly about 5,000 of us residential taxpayers. There's only so much more that we can afford. So I also, coming down the pike, which is not being talked about, they're talking about a new firehouse. After the new firehouse is built, there's going to be a new town center. They're going to fix up the old firehouse. We're looking at millions and millions of potential tax increases and spending. So I think that you have to approach this two prongs. One is to cut the spending. I'm a businesswoman. I know what I have to do when times are tough or when I can't afford everything that I want. I have to cut spending. It's that simple. And I also think that our town board has not been diligent in going outside, in going to Sean Patrick Maloney, or going to even Sue Serino or some of the other sources of income, and knocking down their doors to get the grant money and other funding that we're entitled to.
Thank you. Mr. Williams?
Yes, to bring down our taxes, we need to take a multi-tier approach. First of all, we need to seek out new sources of revenue in this town. That comes from being innovative, creative, seeking out grants, seeking out federal and state funding, continuing to work with our county to bring in funds. There's a variety of things that aren't being done right now that need to be. There's too much of a negative attitude, too much of a nothing can be done in this town, nothing can be created, or the only way to do anything is by raising taxes. Let's try to do things that actually raise our property values. Let's start with that. Let's start streamlining our budget, finding areas where we can implement shared services, where we can bring down our costs at the town level. Let's actually look at our master plan in this town. The last comprehensive plan or master plan was done in 2007. On the town website it says it's supposed to be updated and looked at about every 10 years. It's about 2019 now, so we're at 12 years, so that's a job that's not being done. But if we use a common sense approach and start figuring out and making strategic partnerships and start building upon the natural assets of our community, we can bring in funds that reduce our taxes and also bring us the services that actually reflect the enormous amount of taxes that we are paying, so that we have an enjoyable, comfortable place to live and some place that's not outpricing our seniors, and that gives us programs and things so that our youth want to stay after they graduate. Thank you.
Mr. Longo?
Putnam Valley is a beautiful place to live. That's why we've chosen it. Our tax base is a problem since we don't have the commercial areas. We also have a problem with some of the areas because we have a lot of wetlands in our town. Not everything that you just see can be developed, both good and bad. As far as our budgets, we go through our budgets line by line. We spend numerous hours trying to figure out ways of cutting money and raising revenues. We've lowered our permit fees for additions and alterations so that if a business or a resident wants to come into town, it's a little bit of an easier burden on them so that we can produce, hopefully, more revenue to our town. We use our fund balance, but we use it wisely. We'll get back to that later. We cannot take everything out of there. That is a savings account for when we need money. As far as out-of-control spending, there are no town hall plans. There's no plans for the camp expansion. There are no monies being expended for shared services. An example of having the Women's Resource Center come into town. That is a grant, a true grant. It's not a matching grant. We are not expending money on that at all. So these things, although they could come down, they're not here now. We are not spending anything more than paying the bills. We do not have a lot left in our budget that we can negotiate through to get it down. Again, we take it as best we can.
And Mr. Smith.
Thank you. Lots to talk about. Oh, thank you. Lots to talk about. Can't talk about everything. If you'd like to hear more of what I have to say, I have a website that's got all of it on it at ralphsmithforpv.com. You can ask me questions, etc. on that. Growing tax base, I'll just talk briefly about one important thing that is just not being done, and those are the outside grants that have been mentioned by some people there. Any grants that we've gotten have come from the county level. There's none of that going on here. People like to be specific when candidates are running for office. Let me tell you, I saw a need when I was teaching in the schools. I was a special education teacher. I saw a need for general education teachers and special education teachers to work together for all those students so that they could learn together. I wrote a grant personally called Inclusion Comes Naturally, submitted it to National Geographic, got a grant for over $4,000 so that all of the students combined could go together and learn about their environment, etc. on a 3-day trip, 2 nights, to learn about their environment and respecting their environment. This is the kind of thing, grants are out there. Peekskill found them, we can find them, okay? $10 million Peekskill got. That's almost our entire yearly budget here. $10 million they got. The grants are out there. You got to go and look for them. I've got some experience doing that. I'll continue to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Williams, you'll begin this next round. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had several questions approximately the same topic coming to us. I'm going to, with your permission, combine them and for the sake of brevity. The issue that is being addressed is climate change. And the questioners have stated that they believe that Putnam County and Putnam Valley have already felt the effects of climate change with more severe storms and the severity of the storms that we've been having. So the question is this: what can Putnam Valley do to address this perceived climate emergency? And specifically, would you support a move to renewable energy in town buildings and in any other location that you could think of?
That's an excellent question. I am actually committed to helping make Putnam a climate smart town. New York State has made a commitment to being a climate smart state. Putnam County has made a commitment, and I want to see Putnam Valley become truly climate smart. I actually have a plan to make that happen. There are a lot of things that we can do here to do that. I know that the town has done energy audits, but I believe that every building that is possible that is a town building can make use of solar energy. I believe that we need to look into more things such as having solar farms here to reduce not just the energy that's done that we expend on our budget, but also for the residents themselves. There are things that we can look into that make collaborative partnerships with things like our highway department. For example, recycling glass. There's something called glass vault. That is an additive that can be, if you recycle the glass, you can add it to your asphalt, and you can cut costs in paving your roads. There are things that we can do to help our Oregon Corners Business District. Something as simple as bringing electric car chargers, a couple of electric car chargers, which can be paid for by a grant, put down by the Tompkins Bank. People come charge their cars, it brings traffic into town, and they go and they have a meal and they support our local businesses. There are things that we can do in exploring geothermal energy, wind energy. We can do things such as, like the town of Yorktown has a composting program. We could implement a composting program. Currently, we are no longer, our garbage is no longer able to take our leaves to Dutchess County. They're no longer taking them. We could mulch our leaves here, provide them as free mulch for our residents, and sell them to outside neighbors. There are a lot of solutions to make this truly a climate smart town. Thank you.
Mr. Luongo.
Part of our Climate Smart initiative is the open space that we have, to keep it forever green. Unfortunately, that comes at a cost. Everything that we keep forever green comes back off of the tax rolls. We wind up expending money for that. Doesn't mean that we can't work off of what we have to, number one, have a green initiative. Number two, maybe there's a source of revenue. Not dollar for dollar, but if we can power an electric unit using solar. I'm in the process of going through vacant pieces of town property to see if they're big enough that we can put solar panels on them. If it's not going to be an eyesore, we can put that back into the grid so that maybe we wouldn't make dollar for dollar, like I said, but that could come off of our electric bills. Our buildings that we have, especially something that we are building new, if we did, face it the right way so that we get the volume of the sun throughout the day so that we can use solar that way. The composting idea is great. I do it at home. I recycle at home. So personally, I have implemented it myself, my own residents. If we all take a little bit of initiative, we can move further. And as far as being classified a climate smart town, that would come along with it.
Can we pass the microphone to Mr. Smith?
Thank you. Once again, I'll try and be pretty specific on this. I was on the Board of Education. We were committed to our environment. Some examples of this. This entire campus here uses ground source heat pumps to both heat and cool these buildings throughout the year. There has not been a gallon of oil used on this campus in over 20 years. Last year, we expanded that program to the elementary school, installed ground source heat pumps. If you saw the construction on the upper field, beneath the soccer field, we put ground source heat pumps. Now that free energy is coming into the elementary school. These are important steps, okay, that are out there. Last year, we signed the energy performance contract. Replacing the light bulbs is about a 2-day job, folks. That is not a true climate smart community, okay? We have to do things. It's almost 2020. I know it's hard to believe. We're almost 20 years into the next century, and our town has not installed a solar panel on one of their buildings. If you look at these campuses, these school campuses, there are solar panels everywhere, taking advantage of renewable energy, and by the way, lessening our carbon footprint on the planet. Okay, so we're doing everything there. We have to transition that. And by the way, don't you think there are grants for that? They've been around for 20 years, grants to go solar, to go to wind energy. So this, I really care about bringing this to our community, in addition to other environmental initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Villanova.
Hi. Well, I've always been a conservationist. I love our lakes, as I said. I work very hard to help create the Lake Oscawana Improvement District. But I can tell you right now, I'm not a fan of the Green New Deal. I am not a fan of all of these climate regs and rules. We are not at a point where renewables are practical. We cannot do away with our fossil fuels at this time. They're what keeps us going, okay? To pretend that we can get by, I mean, don't get me wrong, I think what they did with this heat pump in this schools was great. I think that's wonderful. But as far as the renewables, they're not practical now. What do you do when, I mean, ask anybody who's got a lot of solar lights around their house how it goes. So I think that, for me, I think that what we're doing in terms of conservation, we're protecting our environment. What the highway superintendents talked about with the brine and protecting, not putting down too much salt. We're having problems with our recyclables. Now it turns out that nobody wants them. And guess what it's turning out to be? The place that the technology now is with landfills. Who would have thought that? But now landfills are getting to be the preferred place to put our garbage. So I think that renewables are great in some aspect, but I don't think that we are anywhere near realistically replacing fossil fuels, which have gotten also, by the way, much cleaner. I think that we depend on them for our heat, our electricity, our power, and that's, to me, that's being realistic about it.
Thank you. Mr. Longo, she's saying that when you speak, you might want to hold it a little closer. Mr. Longo, we're going to begin with you this time, sir. I'm going to once again take a liberty with this question. The question is, how do you propose to pay for a new firehouse and town hall center? I'm going to amend that to say with the assumption that you support a new firehouse and town hall center. So if you do, how will you pay for it? And if you don't, please explain why.
As far as the firehouse goes, we need one. Even if the firehouse is built and it's funded by the taxpayers, there's no guarantee of what we're going to do with town hall. I beg your pardon, with the existing firehouse. Maybe that's our new highway garage, so we don't have to spend money. Maybe with just some minor renovations, we can get a good part of it done that way, as opposed to putting up a new building. There's multiple rooms in it. Maybe it could be used with very little expense. Unfortunately, we did have a grant for the firehouse years ago that we had applied for. It did not come true. There's building grants out there now. Maybe since we're renovating the building, we would be able to get a grant, lessen the burden, and increase the services one way or the other. To say that we are going to put X dollars into the existing firehouse to create a town hall, I couldn't say that today because I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not looking at that right now. The firehouse is built. When it is built, the decisions will be made at that time. And also, we would seek monies from our county, state, and federal governments so that to lessen the burden on the taxpayers of our town.
Mr. Smith.
Well, I would be happy to assist with the writing of grants for any of the improvements in our town. Taxes, believe me, I don't come in from my mailbox and say, hey, we got the tax bill today. You know, I'm not ever happy. I don't like to pay taxes, just like everybody in this room. But the issue is the next step. What we want to do is spend them on what our community wants to spend them on. And if our community wants a new firehouse, and frankly needs a new firehouse, then we will spend the money on that, okay? We have had some nice improvements. I mean, the ambulance building is a beautiful building. It provides a place for occasions in our town. You know, I really, although I am very fiscally conservative, I realize that time moves on and there are things that have to be updated and improved. But We do have to do what we honestly have not done, is look for support in those areas by applying for grants and doing it in the fiscally responsible way. And by the way, the whole new firehouse, other areas, that has to be brought to the public for committees, etc. It's not a town board alone issue. This is a team effort, okay? This is our town. We're a team. Whether we like it or not, we are all part of the same team. And so it has to be brought to committees that study these things, okay? So this decision, as well as any others, has to be out there in the public so everybody knows it's happening and can give their input and perhaps even work on some of those committees. Thank you.
Mr. Lenovo?
Well, 10 years ago, the fire department did try to build, and for different reasons, that defects in their grant application, they did not get the money. 10 years ago, when they tried back then to build, that is when all the information came out about the additional plans that were going to happen to those buildings. Okay? The plans were back then that they were going to use the town hall, they were going to move the existing town hall to what is now the firehouse. Again, these are multi-million-dollar projects that are going to be on our backs. Notice that Larry Cobb, the highway guys, they haven't been asking for a new highway garage, and that building is probably in the worst shape of anything. Somehow, they're making do, okay? The firehouse, the fire department does an excellent job. They have been doing an excellent job for the last 10 years. I don't know that we really need a new firehouse, but I think that, once again, we have to get our priorities straight. And also, I just would like to clarify something. I've been following up on that grant for the women's shelter that was supposed to be built, and that whole deal that's going on right now, which is a switch between the Parks and Rec building to go down to where the sheriff's station is at Argonne Corners. The county has not received that grant money. I have the letter from County Executive Odell. That money is not there. Everybody's moving ahead with plans for this swap of buildings. The money is not there, okay? It has not been there. We don't even know if we're going to get it. But yet everybody's got their shovels out and they're ready to dig in the ground. So I also think that we should go with an expenditure like the firehouse. I think that needs to have a referendum. I think that is it. No more backdoor financing like it's been going on.
Mr. Williams?
Yes, well, fortunately, I've had an opportunity to have some insight on the plans for the firehouse as someone that's been working on the planning board. They have been having series of public hearings at several of our planning board meetings for people to come out and discuss it. And I've had the opportunity to see various stages of the plans that are being worked on. The fire department, it is not compliant. It does need to be upgraded. Our public servants, our firefighters, they do an excellent job, but there are things that they do need there. And there are things that are actually requirements. They're requirements of the state. So while I understand that some people may question whether we should even have, an upgraded fire department or not, I think it's essential for the people that are basically risking their lives to protect all of us as volunteers to have adequate facilities. That being said, how do we fund it? Well, I've heard people mention grants. I've heard people mention a variety of things. I know that the fire department itself has been saving toward this. I also know that there are ways that we can add to that process. I don't want to necessarily say everybody has to raise their taxes. I hear people mention various grants. I hear grants haven't been procured in the past, but I say that we continue to fight for that however we can to actually serve our public servants and make this a safer and better community for everyone. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're almost to our last question that has been submitted. If anybody has any further questions they would like to submit, would you please give them to our league president at this time? Mr. Smith, we're back to starting with you, sir. This question, you probably believe that it's been addressed in some of the other questions. However, the question is, what will you do, what can you do to assure long-term residents that they can continue to afford to live in Putnam Valley?
Well, thank you. Once again, I've addressed this at length on my website. Feel free to look there. Taxes is the concern here in this question. People want to age in place. They want to live here. They don't want to have to move to Florida, Mississippi, or Alabama. They want to age in place here. I decided to investigate this personally myself. I went back in my checkbooks and I got the last 6 years of my taxes for school taxes and town taxes. They're posted on the website. Talk about transparency. How many people you ever known would do that? They're on my website. I discovered that over the past 6 years, the school taxes have gone up 4.8%. That's 4.75, but I rounded up to 8. Our town taxes have gone up 10.7%, more than double. At the same time, the school taxes have been under the tax cap each and every single year. And that means you and I got a check in September or October, right? For a few bucks. Mine was the smallest, I think, in history, but for some money to offset some of that. It doesn't happen at the town level. The town has been over the tax cap 7 out of 8 years. I have some bad news for you. I went to the town board meeting last week. They put out their new preliminary budget, and at the bottom here it says your taxes increased 3%. Once again, that'll be over the tax cap, which will be around 2%. At the same time, follow it up here, the town has a fund balance of $1.9 million. So to be specific, if you take $140,000 of that savings account, that $1.9 million, and put it toward these expenses, that would lower the tax rate to 2% or close to the tax cap. Please investigate my website for these specifics. Thank you.
I'm starting to sound like a broken record here. The proposals that I have advocated for over the years are common sense business proposals. It's cut spending across the board wherever possible. I think that we have to separate our wants from our needs, and we have to, at every budget, nobody's budget is sacrosanct. I think we have to look at everything. We have to look at contractual employees that we have that are not union employees, see if we can get a better deal, say for our town council expenses, for town planners, some of the private contracts that we have. There's always ways that you can cut money from a budget. We also have to do things to encourage small business and home-based business, and that includes Airbnb. We have way too many regulations in this town. Home-based businesses are contractors, people that do remote work, people that buy and sell on the internet. That is the heart and soul of our business in this town. We are not going to have big business come here to any extent where it's going to make a difference on our taxes. So whatever we can do to foster and encourage home-based businesses, whether it's allowing, or, I think right now, short-term rentals, the Airbnb, I don't even think that's allowed theoretically. But those are the kinds of things that we can do. Help people where they can. Let's work with what we have. And also, as I've been saying, and I'm glad that other people have stolen my issues, is we need to get the money that we're entitled to have from these outside taxing agencies, other branches of the government. We cannot keep hitting on the same 5,000 taxpayers year after year. I don't care if it's 2.5% or 1%. Thank you.
Mr. Williams.
Yes, well, a couple of things that we can do. One, starting to piggyback off of what Mr. Smith said, yes, definitely there is generous room in our fund budget to provide some relief on our taxes without emptying our fund budget and making it not available for emergencies. I believe the percentages are generally you like to have about a 10% room on your fund balance, and I think right now we're roughly around 17-18% above the budget. So I think there's some room there to provide some relief. But additionally, one thing that I would not necessarily do is just put a blanket, we're just going to cut everybody by 5%, because realistically you have to realize that departments do have, they have state mandates, they have things that they need to do, and if you just say I'm just going to have a generic, cut everybody's budget, what you may do is you may render an essential department, you may make them unable to actually do their jobs effectively. But one thing that we can do is bring business to our area. I'm not talking about strip malls and Walmarts and things like that, but I'm talking about sensible, well thought out plans that comes with evaluating our comprehensive plan. Doing things like bringing a local development corporation. If we want to support our individual businesses and our private entrepreneurs and everything, that's the way you do it, by bringing in an agency that works with groups that deal with not-for-profits. But we also want to bring traffic to our business district, revitalize it, because Putnam Valley residents alone can't support the local residents and everything. We need to find creative ways to actually bring outside traffic into our area, and that will help boost our tax base.
Mr. Long.
Thank you. I've heard multiple times about our taxes. We talk about them all the time. Our town taxes do go up. We try to keep them to as low as possible to pay our bills. We are not banking money. Our fund balance we use, and the numbers that have been quoted tonight are off of a preliminary budget. Our budget hasn't even been settled yet. We haven't finished the process in its entirety. There's still more work to be done. There is fund balances that can be used. But one thing that we have a problem with is the fact that numbers keep getting put out in percentages. One percentage that we heard was that town taxes went up 10.7% and the school only went up 4.8%. Well, yes, the school budget did go up less percentage-wise than the town taxes. But when you calculate it out, over the last 6 years, the town taxes went up under $300, and the school taxes went up almost $350. Why isn't there more money coming out of the fund balance for the taxpayers from the school district? That's where the hardest shot is. School represents 75% of our tax bill. 75 cents of every dollar goes to fund the school. That's where we need our relief. There's no doubt there can be work done at the town level. The big one to take care of is the school. Where are the shared services? Do we need all of the administration that we have? Can't we consolidate through the county? Save our taxpayers in this town and every other town here some money. Thank you.
Thank you all. Ms. Villanova, we'll begin with you for this next question. And since we are already on the topic of taxes, this next question will follow up on some of your previous answers. The question is this. Throughout the night, many of you have spoken about the need and desire to identify and apply for more grants. The question says, if grants are coming from the county or the state, does it ultimately come back to the taxpayer? Can you think of and identify any other grant sources that are not indirectly paid for by the taxpayers?
Well, not off the top of my head, but on the other hand, most of our money, I mean, if you're looking for private corporations, okay, to do things that need to be done, the projects that I'm talking about, for example, like talk about the infrastructure in Lake Peekskill. I don't know of any corporate entities that would be capable of donating that kind of money. We're talking about millions and millions of dollars here. So, private corporations, you're only going to get so far. You don't look to do these things. The government has its duties to us. I mean, we pay these taxes. The government it's not a one-way street. You don't just pay and get nothing. We're paying and paying multiple levels of government. We can't look to a private corporation to give us grants for things for millions and millions of dollars. It doesn't work like that. Instead, what we have to do is, and what I advocate doing, is holding our government, our servant government, holding our government accountable. They get the lion's share of the money. The corporations have to pay them too. Why should they? I mean, they're the people that we look for. I'm not going to look for Apple Computer to donate $10 million to put up infrastructure, do a bridge repair, or put in water and sewer in Lake Peekskill. That's the job of the government. The government is taking the lion's share of our money. Most of our money goes to taxes. So, I mean, I think the government has the obligation to do it. Why? I mean, the corporations are under no obligation to fund this kind of stuff. It's the government that takes all our money. They're the ones that should be accountable.
Mr. Williams.
Okay. On the local level, first of all, it's the elected officials that are the first line of defense for the taxpayer. It's their job to be creative and to seek out sources of revenue, whether it be grants, whether it be streamlining the budget, however they want to do it. But they need to get in the trenches and do the research. There are a variety of ways we can do this. Yes, there are federal funds, there are state funds, things that you're already paying into through your income taxes. But if you have competent people that have experience in seeking grants, and I will say, because I didn't mention this before, I have actually written grants as well. I understand that writing a grant involves presenting a good story. We need to promote the natural resources and assets of Putnam Valley, and we need to get some public relations behind our area, the wonderful things like Fonsstock Park, Granite Mountain, our stone chambers, our stone walls. We need to start promoting the beauty of this area in its relationship to places like New York City, and let people know there's a beautiful place that you can come, you can stay, you can spend some dollars. And then we apply for grants and create strategic alliances, strategic partnerships, not just with corporations, but with the county, with our neighboring counties, our neighboring towns, and we work together and we create a strong plan to bring monies in here. There's a variety of things we can do besides just grants. I know that's the buzzword that everybody's talking about, but with a little research, there are programs that you can do to bring relief. Right now, I know of a project specifically that helps businesses, and it actually takes money off of the local taxpayers' tax bill if you support the local businesses. That's a project that anyone can come up to me and talk about, and I'd be happy because I plan to implement it when elected town board for this county. Thank you.
Mr. Long.
Would you mind repeating the question, please?
Yes, sir. The question concerns grants. And the questioner is making the point that grants that come to us from either the county or the state are also funded by taxpayer dollars. So are we not, in fact, by looking for more grants to fund things in the town, aren't we still ultimately paying for it? And the questioner asks, are there other sources for grants that you can identify where it is not, in fact, the taxpayer that is
Thank you.
paying for it?
Grants, like we said, they're good. They're a buzzword. I agree with them to a point. Most of our grants, I said before, are matching grants. We need to have money to get this money. You can't deplete everything we have to go after this matching grants. Incentives for things to come into our town. Our county, our state, our federal monies, we've all paid for, as been said. to get corporations to come into this town to find ways to get us money. That is a tough nut to crack. Can it be done? Yes, we can do it. Has it been tried? Yes, it has. We have tried every way to find monies for our town, to fund different projects, to just offset our budgets for the simple fact that we do not have any other sources of income at present, except for the backs of the taxpayer. I myself am a taxpayer in this town. Every time we do something with our taxes, I'm affected as well as everybody in this room. Right? I feel for that. I love Putnam Valley. I came here because I want to be here. I want to stay here also, like everybody else. Nobody comes here to leave. So as far as talking to our county, our state, our federal officials, every day we are working on different ways of bringing revenue to the town, whether it be in the form of a new sale item or a grant, if you will, just using that term, any incentive that we can get.
Mr. Smith.
Again, it's enough about grants after this, Mr. Moderator, but I've given an example of a specific grant that I wrote. It's the grant I wrote, by the way, not funded by taxpayers. Businesses provide grants also for communities. The one I wrote that I specifically gave was funded by the National Geographic Foundation. Okay, these things are not always, you know, coming out of your money. Okay, if you had searched around for grants enough, you would know that grants are not always coming from government. Okay, they come from private sources. They even come from foundations and wealthy individuals who fund those foundations. Grants, I don't know at this time all the grants that are out there. I don't know everything about town government. I know a whole lot about school government. I know a whole lot about teaching. I don't know everything about town government yet, but I'm going to find out, okay? Let me give you an example. November, after I'm hopefully elected or not, November 10th, I'm going up to a National Association of Lakes Management conference in Vermont. Why? We're a town of lakes, right? We're a town of lakes. I would be very surprised if that conference did not have in their 5 days information about getting monies to put toward the health and well-being of our lakes. That's why I'm going there, for our town, to find out information for them. So, thank you very much.
Mr. Williams, you're up first, sir. And it's funny that our conversation has turned towards water, because our next question is also about water. The question is, the groundwater aquifers are a valuable resource for our town, but they are being threatened by outdated septic systems. How will you safeguard our aquifers?
Well, first of all, I know that we already have town laws in place that are our septic pumping laws. Our septic tanks are supposed to be pumped out every 3 years. Now, at last I heard we were about 85–90% into compliance with that. However, I think that the starting point is to make sure that we have true enforcement so that we're at 100% compliance. Our lakes, again, as Mr. Smith said, that is the lifeblood of this town. That is one of the things that separates us from so many other areas. Our, Oscawana Lake, Roaringbrook Lake, and Lake Peekskill. We have a system in place in Lake Peekskill right now that has actually been working very successfully. It was put in, and we've had people come as far away as New Jersey. We've had people come from other towns and areas to look at what we've done there, because we've actually started to restore the health and are strengthening the health of our lake to the point that other people want to emulate what we're doing there. I've attended Lakes Commission meetings, and I tend to work directly with groups like the CCE, who developed a very strong natural resources inventory, and to work with other individuals at the DEC in order to, once again, make sure that we're doing everything that we can to stop lake runoff, whether it be our septics, pesticides, whatever endangers our lakes, endangers our way of life as a whole. And I will fight to protect it as your town board member. Thank you.
Mr. Luongo.
The septic pump out laws work. Enforcement is paramount to making sure of that. The other part of the pump out law is not just to have it pumped out, but it's an inspection to make sure that once it's pumped out, it's still functioning properly. Oh, you could just pump your septic tank out every couple of years and you'd still be functioning. Is it proper? No. The other thing is we talk about septics. Septics are probably the number one issue. We also have other problems that we need to address. It's carelessness. We don't have any longer because of because of other reasons. We don't have an oil recycling center. How many people now have decided that Walmart's too far away and are dumping it on the ground? I don't know. I know I don't. I have jugs all over the place I have to get rid of now that, we lost our center. But I'm willing to drive with it to make sure that I don't put that into the ground. These are the things that we need to do. We need to realize what we are doing to our ground, because whatever we do to our ground, we do to our groundwater. That's where our town gets its lifeblood from, water, and that's what water is. And we need to protect it. I have seen many recycle centers that have opened. Any gas station, Walmart, BJ's, they'll all accept our oil. We need to make a collaborative effort to continue to be careful of what we put on the top of the ground, because what we do to our grass eventually affects our water.
Mr. Smith.
I think I already made clear my love of our environment and our lakes. I would extend this to town board members. National Association of Lake Management Systems Conference in Vermont. Come on along. And on November 12th, 1:30, septic systems. There's also one on harmful algae blooms later that day. We have to be proactive. We had a good summer, by the way. We had a good summer with our lakes. We cannot take that and sit back and say, okay, well, all lake problems are solved now. We cannot sit back and relax. We have to continue to pay attention to our watershed, to our lakes, and taking care of them. That's enough said. Thank you.
Hi. If you really want to find out about the aquifers and what's going on underground with the water, there's nobody better to talk to than Norman Anderson, the well driller. This guy can tell you where every drop of water is underground. And I hope someday somebody does a video of this guy. He's the best. But anyway, Norman always says, think of our aquifers like big buckets of water and people putting straws in it. And that's what's happening. We have so many wells. There have been so many houses that used to be, I remember back growing up here, there was actually, everything was summer. I mean, we grew up in Lake Peekskill. We were practically the only kids that stayed there all year round. So there's a strain on our aquifers. And one of the things that always helped the aquifers recharge was in Lake Peekskill, and even in Lookout Manor, where I live now, in the improvement districts, we had seasonal water. And it was really a shame that we lost our seasonal water. And they really did help. These aquifers can be recharged. The problem that we have now is because there's such a demand for water with these wells and everything, and we're going deeper and deeper, the aquifers don't have a chance to recharge. So we can protect our aquifers. Believe it or not, our town has already done a lot. We have an aquifer protection district. We cannot have, I believe we're not allowed to have any more gas stations built. But the thing is, we may have to look again, we may have to revisit in places like Lake Peekskill where the aquifers are really threatened. We may have to really bring in water. I mean, this is part of the infrastructure. You know, it's not that easy to recharge the aquifers. We have to protect what we have. We have to look to recharge them. And again, the Highway Department's doing a great job with the brine as opposed to the salt and protecting them.
Well, thank you all very much. That concludes our question and answer period. In just one moment, we're going to ask for your closing remarks. As we stated earlier, they will be going in reverse order from our opening statements. However, before we get to your closing statements, I would just like to ask the audience to please remain in your seats at the conclusion of the closing statements. The league will have some final closing remarks to make that we would like you to stay for. So again, please remain in your seats until we have signed off air. So at this time, it is time for our closing remarks. And Mr. Luongo, you go first, sir.
Thank you. My ties to the community are strong, as shown by my many years of community service, and continuing to be part of the town board is no exception. Some of the accomplishments that I have been involved with on the town board are no smoking in our town park, working with the Hudson Highlands to make some areas forever green, longer-term contracts with our employees so that we can project out better for monies to be expended year after year, a moratorium on opening new vape and marijuana stores. We lowered the permit fees, as I spoke of before. Push for open communications by being available to answer concerns of our residents. I believe in transparency. There are no backroom deals made. Everything is out in the open. The town board fights to keep our taxes as low as possible. As a resident, I pay taxes along with all of you. They are a very big concern to me. One of the reasons why we spend so much time reviewing each line of our town budget. My commitment to the town speaks for itself. We don't use all of our fund balance because we don't want to run out of money, and that's the plain and simple truth of it. What do we do next year if we take too much from it this year? On November 5th, I'm asking for your vote so when I am reelected, I can continue to serve my community as I have done in the past. My heart is in Putnam Valley. Thank you for coming, and please get home safely.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Williams.
If you think that things are good the way they are, then keep them the way they are. But I think it's very apparent by everything that's been said here tonight that there is time for a definite change. We need to take action on our town. This election is critical. It is crucial because right now what's at stake is not just our seniors being outpriced living here, not just continually increasing our tax base, not just continuing to have a dysfunctional business district, not just continuing to not address the issues of health and safety that we didn't get to talk about tonight but are part of my platform, not just to need to focus on making this a better environment for everyone that lives here, not just us but our children. I am committed to do the work, to make a difference, to help make this a better Putnam Valley for all the residents here so that we can continue to grow together and that we can look back and say, hey, we did something good in this election. November 5th, please consider me for your vote. Thank you.
Ms. Villanova.
Okay, hi. As I said, I have a 30-year record of taxpayer advocacy. I've fought a lot of battles as a volunteer. I don't want to be forced out of my home at this point in my life. I love my house. I love the lake. But the way things are going, it's getting harder and harder every year. I'd also like to remind people, I'm surprised nobody brought it up, but there is another proposition on the ballot to change the methodology of funding the library. I personally am happy with the way the library is being funded by the town. The library wants to make it a separate budget line. I urge you all to read all of the information that's out there. I'm sorry that we didn't get a chance to discuss it a little bit more, but it is going to be on the ballot. I would also like to point out that my approach to taxation and spending is much different than the people that I'm running with. When Mr. Smith was working as a teacher, he also told us and bragged that he was negotiating the contracts. And these contracts that he negotiated while he was working for the teachers union are some of the most expensive contracts in the Hudson Valley. So let's not forget about that. I've always fought for the taxpayer. I'm not afraid to stand up to anyone. I've gone to a million meetings. I will continue. This time I'd like to have the power to actually do something. Thank you.
Mr. Smith.
So I would suggest you follow that reasoning through, Patty, that if I was an excellent negotiator, wouldn't you want me on your team? Anyway, I'm going to use my teamwork as a chief negotiator, as a grant writer. I'm going to use my experience of those things to be a team player. Team as in all of us, get everyone's input. Team as far as the board, etc. I'm going to get us under the tax cap, as everyone has said, well, almost everyone has said, is very important. I will work at like the things I cited about getting other funding. I'm going to educate myself about town government, as I'm already going to be doing even before taking office. Okay? I'm going to strengthen ties, by the way, with schools, law enforcement, mental health facilities, and judges to address the opioid crisis that should have been spoken about this evening. Please see my website. You know, sometimes people say, geez, everything is great. Well, I have many people who have contributed to my campaign. I thank them mightily. I'm very touched by that. You know, I have one person who's contributed more monetarily than anyone else, and I'll present that to you. Sam Oliveria. If everything is just peachy, why does he want to see me get elected? Anyway, I thank you all for your attention, and I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we will give the candidates a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the League of Women Voters, I would like to thank you all for demonstrating your civic concern by attending this event and the respect you showed throughout the evening. I want to thank the candidates for their participation tonight. And if you liked tonight's forum and League of Women Voters of Putnam County Educational Forums, we would greatly appreciate any kind of a donation that you could spare for us on your way out this evening. We'd also like to mention that League of Women Voters would love to have your participation. Don't forget to pick up legal information from our literature table, early voting applications, early voting information, and informative literature is there for your taking. For additional candidate information, it is also available on the League of Women Voters online voting guide at vote411.org. Please be sure to vote by early voting at the Putnam Board of Elections office in Cornwall, or on the general election date of November 5th at your usual polling location. And now, at this time, ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct pleasure and honor to introduce to you Ms. Phyllis Honig, one of the Vice Presidents of the Board of Directors of the League of Women Voters. Ms. Phyllis Honig.
Thank you, Mark. In order to produce the forum you've been a part of this evening, takes many hours of work on the League's part. We began planning this campaign season in July. First, getting a list of the candidates, then the laborious job of getting their email addresses. And that's a real bitch, their email addresses. Which is only the beginning of inviting them to participate. There is the back and forth with emails and telephone calls, finding a venue and a suitable date for everyone, and so much more. It is usually a labor of love because we are proud to be the League of Women Voters. But this season has been an onerous one for us and has required so much more effort on our part. We had planned for 4 forums, 2 on the east side of the county and 2 on the west. However, because of our empty chair policy, that is, if only one candidate accepts our invitation, we are unable to hold a debate for that particular office. In fact, that was why we had to cancel the 2 debates in Kent, Mahopac, and Southeast. And why Camille Linsom, running for county court judge, could not speak from the podium tonight. Her opponent never responded to our invitation. We were very disappointed because we had hoped to have 4 healthy forums to cover the entire county. Phillipstown and Putnam Valley did accept our invitation to debate, and they did it rather quickly. And this is how democracy should work. And you've made it work by attending the forums. So my first thank you goes to the candidates who gave up their busy time tonight to participate. Thank you very much. And thank you to the audience for coming out tonight to this very important event. You really were given a lot of information to process. And we appreciate that you made the effort to come out. Thanks to all our league members who have helped tonight. They are so important to making sure that these events run smoothly. Thank you to the Voter Services Committee, Eileen Riley, Julie Boyd, Susan Lunning, Nina Platatori, and Phyllis Honig. These forums could not have happened but for the countless hours they gave to organize the debates. Thank you to the timekeepers, Nina Platatori and Jane Wise. And thank you to our moderator, Mark Bukowski, who never fails to amaze us with his professionalism. Thank you to Putnam Valley Central School District and Jeannie Venepe, Laura Sherwood, and Susie Cummins for your help in this venue tonight. Thanks to Tony Aaron, Brain Trust Productions, for videotaping our event. The League especially thanks our fearless leader, Eileen Riley. President of the LWV of Putnam County. We could not have done it without her tireless perseverance and her leadership. She is one of your own, Putnam Valley, so give her the applause she deserves. Early voting begins on October 26th, and you can get the dates from the material on our table. So please mingle afterwards with any candidates that did not get to speak tonight, but would like to introduce themselves to you. Good night to everyone.